the PVC valve, I am not hooking up to the intake. On the supercharger, you have these are your vacuum lines right here. You have one for evap, one for PVC, and one for your brake booster. I have an automatic. I don't use this one, but I'm not going to use these two either. Okay, I know I'm not using PVC here, and now I think I'm not going to do the evap either. I think I might just eliminate that system to make it easier and find a different way to vent the fumes. Okay, that I'm working on right now. Because these are sources of vacuum, and you don't want things getting sucked into your intake that you don't want. The evap probably isn't that bad because it's just gas fumes, so that's probably not terrible, but you don't want oil going into your engine. You cannot connect your breather tube into your intake. You are going to suck oil. I just pulled my engine apart. I should have did a video on that, but I didn't. Now, I disconnected this a little while ago, or I reroute it is what I do. I reroute it so oil can't get into the engine. Okay, I'm going to show you briefly how I do that. Because it sucks oil, even with a canister, oil still gets past that. Moisture still gets past a canister. So you're going to suck oil into your intake. That's how things carbon up. You're going to ruin the supercharger, your intake valves, your intake ports, your pistons. Everything are going to have a coating of oil, which gets burned into carbon. And you don't want that. So you have to, if you're going to vent your PVC to the engine, you have to take care to find a way to do that so you don't get any oil into the engine and still create vacuum in the crankcase, which is good. You want vacuum in the crankcase. That produces power. You don't want oil in your engine. That ruins your engine. Okay, two different things. I think I found a way how I like to do it, and so far it's been working pretty good. What I'm going to do is something similar that I did on my stock intake. Again, I rerouted the PVC. Here's my catch can. Not really that much oil. The whole time I had this on there's really only a few ounces, and most of that was water. It was mostly the condensation. But when I did take this off, there was condensation in both tubes. One was going to the intake, one was going from the coming from the engine. So what I do is I take my PVCs, connect those together. I'd like to have a 3-port canister, but I don't. Link those together, run those into the canister, and run the other one into my air box. But instead of running it behind, okay, all these companies have you connect the PVC valve to vacuum, but on the back side of the filter, which means oil can run. It'll run along the inside of here and go into your intake. Okay, maybe it's not that much, but it's still injecting oil into your intake. So what I do, like on this one, I ran it to in front. So I run my hose. I do the same thing, but instead of behind the filter, I run it in front of the filter. So there's a few drops of oil that are seeping out. It's going to go into my air filter. I'd rather clean my air filter than rebuild my engine. Okay, air filters are cheap. I either clean it or rebuild it once a year. And this car gets about 5 or 6,000 miles a year. So about every 6,000 miles, I'm cleaning my filter. And probably every 12,000 miles, I'd probably just get a brand new one. Okay, run it for a year or two, clean it, and then get a new one. So that way, oil is not getting into my intake. So when I pulled my intake off, there was oil in the intake. I already cleaned these ports, so I don't know if you can't see that. Yeah, I already cleaned my intake, so you can't really see anymore. You can't see it with the camera. But it was clean in the middle where the fuel injector sprays and black on each side. So before I disconnected that and before I was running E85, these ports were black. You might be able to see a little bit in there. There's a little, you can see a little bit of black that I can't get out. But there's also carbon on the valves. Okay, so that didn't work. Tried Tried to show you. That's not working on video. Not with this camera. Need to get a better camera for that. Okay. Okay, that didn't work. I tried to show you the carbon on the valves, but take my word for it. The ports were black. This is an example that was coming out of the intake ports. Not the intake, but literally on the sides of the intake port. The fuel injector, that E85 was doing a good job at cleaning. The middle of the port was clean. Cleaned all the oil and carbon off of there. The edges still had oil on them. I cleaned that oil out. And then the valves have just a little bit of carbon on the back sides. I'm going to try to mess with that, see if I can clean that out of them. I don't know where I'm putting my catch can yet. Don't know if this catch can is going to be big enough. It's the small Mishimoto. Hopefully it is. After doing some research on the catch cans, you don't need a fancy one. That's all I'm going to say about that. But you do have to have a catch can on these cars. I think I've went over that before. That's oil injection. What happens is, especially under boost, your crankcase is building pressure, and that's pumping out the pressure. The only problem is that pressure, that oil is flying all over the place in your engine, so there's oil droplets in the mixture, plus blow-by gases, all that nasty stuff is getting blown out, and on a normal car, that's getting sucked, like on this one. You can't see it, but there's intake ports right there. Your vacuum ports is getting sucked right directly into the intake. I think I talked about this in one of my other videos. So my intake manifold had a complete oil coating on the inside. And I disconnected that 2 years ago. So for 3.5 years of this car's life, it was sucking in oil, and it coated the whole intake just from that. And these boxers don't have much blow-by. I never filled that can the whole time I had it. I had it on there for at least 2 years, maybe 3. Never filled it. It had like 2 or 3 ounces in it after that whole time. So that's not a lot. And it still coated the whole intake. So just imagine some of these cars, like my truck has a lot of blow-by. It just ruins your engine. It ruins it. That's why those Volkswagens are tons of carbon. And some of the BMWs, all these direct injection cars are even worse because you don't have that fuel injector cleaning off the valve. Get yourself a catch can first thing, even on your normal car. All cars need at least a minimum of a small, just go get a $20 catch can on Amazon or eBay. Just get the cheapest one you can get. At least you have something pulling the oil out instead of nothing. Okay, get at least something. Worst case is some of those catch cans unscrew. You could put something in there like steel wool or something to help filter it. Put something on there and then connect it back up. Again, I reroute mine so there's no possible way oil can get into the intake. In the system, still under vacuum, which is good for the engine. You want vacuum in your crankcase. But that's it. It's put together. I'm rambling on. That's it. Thanks. Bye.